Hello and welcome to ATMOS 2750. I'm your instructor, Kevin Perry, and we are about to embark on a journey where we look at the intersection of air, water, resource extraction, and energy use policies. Sustainability can mean a lot of different things depending upon the context that you're using it in. Here, we're referring to the long-term sustainability of our planet. And what I'd like for you to do is to spend just a few minutes brainstorming what you think sustainability means to try and come up with your own definition before we move on to the next slide to go over the formal definitions of sustainability. So go ahead and pause the recording at this point and do your little brainstorming exercise. So, sustainability definitions. There are a couple of formal ones. Here we have, Random House Dictionary, which is the quality of not being harmful to the environment or depleting natural resources and thereby supporting long-term ecological balance. We have the sustainability definition from the EPA, which is the processes needed to create and maintain the conditions under which humans and nature can exist in productive harmony to support present and future generations. And then we have an article titled Sustainability Science, and it says that sustainability refers to an act, a process, or situation which is capable of being upheld, continued, maintained, or defended. The one thing that all three of these definitions have in common is the underlying assumptions of the three pillars of sustainability. And those are the social aspects, which are the people, the ecological aspects, which is the environment, and the economic aspects, which has to do with the profit. And you can't have a sustainable situation unless you have all three of these spheres working together. So for example, if you make extremely stringent ecological and environmental regulations, you can completely shut down an economy, which would then cause mass upheaval in the social regime and also would eventually lead to ecological and environmental damage. Likewise, if you put profits ahead of everything else, then you don't have the protections in place for the environment, and you don't have protections in place for the workers. And lastly, if you don't have society willing and able to identify sustainability as a goal, then it doesn't matter what the ecological and economic ramifications are, because people just won't be helpful at trying to form a sustainable society. And one of the things that we look at when we have these three pillars of sustainability is we're constantly looking at indicators or metrics to look at the strength of each one of these pillars, because you can't have long-term sustainability without them. So the social aspect is really maintaining your community and your capacity for fostering effective participation and equitable treatment of all stakeholders. There's a lot of social justice aspects associated with this, that you can't just have a sustainable environment or a sustainable world if it's not got the participants, or it excludes certain segments of the population. The ecological part is really maintaining the Earth support system, the ecosystem services that allow us to use this wonderful gift of the Earth in order to maintain life. And lastly, we have the economics, which you really have to maintain a viable economic system. Otherwise, you have declining sociological standards of living that can endanger the environment. So what are the primary challenges to long-term sustainability of our planet? One of the biggest ones just happens to be the number of people that we have on our planet. Feeding, clothing, and sheltering 11 billion people by the year 2100 is going to be a major challenge. So it poses challenges not only in terms of food availability, but water quality and quantity, And also, how do we provide enough energy for 11 billion people to have a reasonable standard of living? And what types of health and safety precautions do we have in place to make sure that they can live long and healthy lives? And one of the big problems that we have is the unequal distribution of wealth and the abject poverty that much of the population of the world is subjected to. And poverty is actually a really big contributor to lack of sustainability, because if you're just worried about being able to eat and get water for your family, environmental ramifications of your actions are not high on your list. And so we need to build in environmental protections, but in order to do that, you have to have support mechanisms for the health and safety of the inhabitants of the planet. And one of the ways that we actually move the science forward is through sustainability research. There are a lot of topics that we need to understand the ramifications of the policies of our governments. So here's what's going on with the world population. So back in 1750, the population of the planet was less than 1 billion people. And it took all the way until the early 1920s for the world population to reach 2 billion. But since then, the population of the world has gotten much bigger, much quicker, and that has largely been through the population growth in developing countries as opposed to the industrialized countries. And it's anticipated that the world population is soon going to exceed 10 billion, and the computer models are showing that the likely maximum world population will be achieved around the year 2100 at about 11 billion people. Sustainability science and research is often based on the SCID hierarchy, where we have solutions, knowledge, information, and data. And the base of the pyramid, or the base of this sustainability science, is raw data. We need to understand have information about the environment. We need to have information about the air and the water quality and the forest health and the population and the economics. All of that is the raw data. And then we need to combine that raw data into what we call information, which puts this data into context and helps make it easily digestible. And then once we have the data in this usable format, we can transform that into knowledge by organizing the information and producing theories and explanations based on the information. And a lot of this is actually done with computer models and simulations of the interactions of society, economy, and environmental regulation. And lastly, at the top of the pyramid are our solutions, which is really the application of our knowledge to solve these real-world problems. One of the problems that people often encounter in sustainability issues is they like to jump directly to the solutions without building the base of this pyramid and basically making those ideas for solutions built upon science. And that's what we're going to try and do in this course. It's my job to bring you up, to provide you with data, to help you synthesize it, and to understand and organize it into theories onto how these ecosystems work and what the critical functions are. And then, and only then, can we talk about potential solutions. So, what do all good solutions have in common? Well, the first thing is that they have to deal with the past. The environment is what it is because of our past actions, and we can't just assume that we're starting from normal conditions. We have to deal with those long-term commitments and the impacts of what we've done in the past. This is often from previous generations. The next thing we have to do is we have to stabilize the present. We have our current expectations about what we want the environment to be like, and we have to try and get there. And then, more importantly, a solution for sustainability requires us to plan for the future. and we have to protect our and anticipate our future needs along the way. So, what are the key sustainability challenges that we face? One of the biggest ones is water supplies, and this is also being driven in part by climate change because it's changing the availability of water around the planet. We also have extreme poverty. It's very difficult to think about sustainability long term if segments of the population are just basically struggling to survive. We have preventable diseases that we need to tackle because that affects mortality. And then we have the dilemma between energy, economy, and environment. We have to provide the energy that our economy needs without wrecking the climate that we all need. And this basically comes down to the long-term use of fossil fuels for electricity generation. That's not sustainable, that's not viable in the long term, and we need to start moving towards alternative energies in order to be able to overcome these challenges. The other thing is that we have to figure out how we're going to adapt to climate change, because much of the climate change that we can expect in the next 100 years cannot be avoided. It's going to happen. The planet takes a long time in order to equilibrate with the conditions, and we have pushed the climate system in a way that it's going to take a while for it to adjust. And so even if we stopped emitting fossil fuels tomorrow, or stopped emitting carbon dioxide from fossil fuel combustion tomorrow, the climate would continue to warm for at least 100 years. And then also we have to manage the intensifying competition for the planet's soil, water, and biomass. As the population increases, the pressures for the available soil, water, and biomass is going to be even greater. And it's possible that we could have wars or other types of insurrections that are aimed at resource acquisition. And that's one of the things that we have to struggle with in order to maintain a sustainable planet. So one thing that researchers have noted is that the level of concern about a resource is often directly related to where you happen to be located. So most people are more aware and most concerned about the local sustainability of what's going on in their community, in their town, in their smaller region, their immediate family. And then as the sphere increases to a larger area, say the city or even a region, people's concern about those resources often lags because it doesn't directly affect them. And that's even more true when you start talking about sustainability on a country or continental or even global scale, because people feel that whatever actions they take don't make a difference on scales like that. And that's one of the challenges that we have to overcome when we start thinking about trying to motivate society to focus in on sustainability issues.